How's it going, folks? This is Yvette from the Children's Court coming to you live from Mission Control Studios, and I'm back. I know I've been gone for a while, but work got a little busy, and I just had to put the videos to the back burner for now, for the time being. But I'm back, so we're gonna get back on the regular schedule of videos coming out. I'm going to be implementing more political topics moving forward. Of course, there's still going to be the current events and side entertainment and things of that nature, but I want to get more into the politics of everything happening today, because the 2020 presidential races are coming, and we have to be a part of that. So what I'm going to talk about today is Ben Carson's congressional appearance, and via Yvette Carmichael Tone Talks and her whole Breaking Brown movement. I'm a regular viewer of that weekly, probably once every 2 weeks or so, because she comes on during the Star Report, and I would always rather watch his than over hers. Not to put hers down in any manner, but I enjoy his content a little bit more. That's not the point tonight. Tonight is about her and her movement attacking Ben Carson for almost no reason. So I tuned into her channel yesterday to listen to the conversation about Ben Carson. I was thinking inside my own head that they would be, lifting him up and raising him for doing the black community a favor of sorts by taking illegal immigrants off of HUD. They're basically on a 90-day time period where they're just gonna have to figure out what they're gonna do, or leave the country, which would be what the administration's wishes would be more than likely. But after that, they're not on HUD anymore. They don't have access to HUD anymore. So going into the Breaking Brown show with Yvette Carmichael, I was thinking that that was going to be what the conversation was. But when I tuned in, to my surprise, she was making a straw man argument about some mold inside of an apartment, and talking about her and her callers were basically talking about how he hates his blackness, and just all kinds of just conjecture and just BS, for lack of better words. So I called into the show and I posed the question: if Dr. Ben Carson was at Congress because the Democrats were angry at him for taking illegal immigrants off of housing assistance, why are you guys talking about how much he hates his blackness and some mold inside some apartments in Detroit? It made absolutely no sense. It almost looked like she was just trying to find a reason to be angry at him. It was literally no real ground she could stand on for the reason that she was tarnishing him the way she was. And instantly, this is what she does regularly. I was totally expecting it. She got angry, started talking about what you don't understand and all things of that nature. And when I tried to rebut after that, she started cutting me off, and eventually I had to raise my voice up a little bit so I could be heard, because she just wouldn't let me talk, and then she cut me off. And I was totally expecting that, so it was no big deal. But after that, her next caller, who was Tone Talks, persisted in insulting my work, insulting just me as a person, saying that my parents were baby boomers that were well off, and that's the reason that I'm a sous chef, and that I make a decent wage. Just low life nigga shit. And excuse my language, I'm just using that language because that's exactly what it was. And the fact that she took my platform away to defend and rebuttal, it just made it all the more ridiculous. So he sat on a soapbox for about a good 10 minutes, if not more, talking just all kinds of low life shit about me, excuse my language. from what I need to be doing in the kitchen to the fact that that I had a plush life, just making stuff up. It literally didn't have to be true. And Yvette's over there, and that's the type of stuff that makes me come back a little bit. It takes me back a little bit and brings me back to reality, because while I was listening to that from Tone Talks and her, excuse me, and her, and then the next caller after that, and I think another caller after that, I had to come to the realization that I can't confuse people that research with intelligent people. See, Tone Talks and Yvette Carmichael, they research. They could be on, a congressional staff or something. They could be an assistant to the president in some form when it comes to just pulling data off the internet. Any of us can do it. Some people take more time to do it. Some people read a lot more. I read and I study things myself, but I don't sit there and print out numbers and everything so I can present it to you on the internet. I would more so have a basic knowledge of things pertaining to the things that I want to talk about. So without getting too far away from what we're talking about, I had to come to that realization that these are just regular black niggas, excuse my language, that research. And so I made a mistake in calling that show and believing that I could have some type of intellectual conversation, because the caller previous to me had the same feelings as me. She was basic, but she felt like she had to, and it's always funny, people do this, when somebody agrees with the policies of the Trump administration today. They always have to start with, I don't like Trump, I don't like his policies, I don't agree with anything he says, he's an asshole, he's rotten, but I agree with this, and I agree with this, and this, and that. And I think I've seen Yvette Carmichael do it herself. I honestly believe that Yvette Carmichael is in agreement with a lot of the policies that the Trump administration are putting forth. And like me and other thinking people, be it lower on some sort of scaling, understand that we can take advantage of some of the policies that the Trump administration is putting into place, whether it be one of his secretaries or from his desk personally. And just people like the caller before me who had to keep saying, I don't agree with Trump, I don't like Trump, he's an asshole, I don't care about him, but I like what he's doing here and I like what he's doing here. I hate the fact that people feel like they have to do that. And so I made it a point not to do that when I called, and I think that's why I was hung up on. You know what I'm saying? The girl before me kind of just bowed out before she could get hung up on, but she wanted to get her point across. She kept saying she doesn't like Trump, so Yvette wouldn't hang up on her. Or Ben Carson, I believe it was. She probably was talking about the both of them, but she got a point across, and she said, "Okay, I'm gonna go." And I didn't do that, and I was demanding my respect from Yvette Carmichael, who's curating. She's got the control of the button. So of course, as soon as I start talking and she doesn't like what I'm saying, she starts talking over me after asking me to let her talk, and that's when my voice went up a little bit, and she cut me off. So her friend Tone Talks calls her, and you gotta check him, because I'm gonna check. Just ridiculousness. And these are supposed to be, people of intellect of some sort. Which, again, I had to come to the realization that they're not intellectuals. They're just people that research. They're just black motherfuckers with cameras, excuse my language, with cameras and a following that do research. And they think that they're going to represent us in Washington. It's absolutely never ever going to happen. So they get to disrespecting me. The caller after that spends about 30 minutes talking shit about me. You can literally go to the Dr. Ben video, go to the end. I'm the third from last caller, I believe, and it's just hilarity how he's getting him. That's some serious, that's some deep stuff. Like, she ain't saying it, but you can see it inside of her expressions, and then inside her chat room, it's like a Roman Coliseum. It's majority, I'm gonna say the majority of them, or the most vocal of them, are just, it's like a church sermon for them. They're in there for the feel goodness of her saying, well, these white motherfuckers better do. We're gonna get our reparations. I don't care how much it costs. And they just saying, yeah, sister, you get them. Here's 50. Here's 100. That's great. I'm happy she's making money. These people are idiots. They're low life trash, and not all of them. I'm sure that there are more, but there's a percentage of them that were inside that chat. I caused freaking chaos in that chat, by the way. They were in there like, listen, there was a few of them saying, I can't follow you no more after what you did to this man. That's crazy. And shout out to Ebony Joy. She was one of the main ones, and I'm shouting her out because she didn't just say it once. There was a few people in there that was like, that was whack. You shouldn't have did that. Why couldn't you stand up for what you were saying? And I appreciated those people too. But this one girl, Ebony Joy, she stood up there and she spoke her mind fully against just vicious wolves that were inside the chat room, not caring about what her concern was. And all she was trying to say was, I thought this was a platform for the exchange of ideas, and the fact that we were all ADOS, that, you know, we would be able to civilly exchange those ideas in an intellectual manner. And, you know, she just felt like she couldn't be a part of it anymore, like several others inside the chat room. And, you know, for the most part, they were like, don't give up because of one thing. I don't agree with everything she said. But she was standing on a square until they got, you know, mad at her and started, you know, talking, you know, a little bit sideways, until she was eventually silenced. And that is the thing about this channel that it makes Breaking Brown and Yvette Carmichael no different than Twitter or Facebook. They always like to talk about who's not, how they're being censored and oppressed on social media. But you know better than them if you've got the power to the mute button and the end call button, and you're using it on people that you just don't like what they're saying. Facebook and Twitter, they ban people if they don't like what they're saying. So if that's what you're doing, you know better than them. You don't have any right to critique anything that they do. And that's what Ebony Joy and several of the other people inside the chat were pointing out, because I believe that they understood what I was trying to get across. The point was that Dr. Ben Carson was at the Congress because he cut illegals off of HUD. He wasn't there because there was mold inside the apartments in Boston and Detroit. That makes no sense. And another thing that Tone Talks did was he, again, another straw man conversation. He turned my conversation about illegal immigrants being taken off of public assistance into a conversation about Mexicans. Now, now listen. I think he lives in California or something, so he's probably terrified at the sight of a Mexican. That's neither here nor there with me. I wasn't having a conversation about Mexicans. I brought up the fact that I live in Boston, Massachusetts, where Latinos have taken over maybe 90% of East Boston. They're 80% of the union that I'm a part of, even though my unit is a very multicultural unit. We have Arabs, we have Latinos, we have blacks, but the majority of the union that I'm a part of is Latino, and they practice tribalism. And maybe 75% or 60% of those people inside the union are illegal immigrants making the best money that low-wage earners in Boston can make. So that's a direct issue for the black community. So it's got nothing to do with Mexicans specifically. There are Arab illegals, there are Asian illegals, there are Latino illegals, and there are African illegals. There are illegals from Europe. I know a couple. I know a couple of sexy Russian chicks that are not here legally. One of them got married to a very wealthy man so she could stay. The other one's still on the run. And I think one of them's married in Maine too, so it's not just Mexicans. So he made the conversation about Mexicans because I think he has an inherent fear of them because they're over there terrorizing black people out of their communities. And that's something that we need to focus on too. See, now I'm opening up the whole can of worms. The thing is that people like Tone Talks are afraid to talk about. So let's talk about illegal immigration and the effect that it has on the black community specifically, because he tried to make it seem like they're just a little pinch of public assistance and housing and things of that nature, when I just told him that they take up about 90%, or at least 80 to 90% of East Boston. They take up 80% of our union. They're moving into Dorchester. They're already covering Jamaica Plain. They're basically expanding, not legally. So listen, I'm not saying that I have a problem with Latinos or illegal immigrants in general. The point is that the expansion of their community is not because of legal immigration. It's because of illegal immigration, and by way of the Democrats making it legal, or making regulations that would allow those illegals to infringe on the government assistance and things of that nature that blacks or Americans in general should have first dibs on. So I didn't even get to get into all of that because she cut me off. You know what I'm saying? So that is a very real problem in the United States. Tone Talks isn't going to tell you about the Mexican cartels and gangs that are over there shooting little black girls coming home from school and killing black people for sport, killing black people and terrorizing them until they move out of whole communities so that their families can come over the border and live in those communities. He's not going to talk to you about that, because they've been trained to mind their goddamn business and take the ass whipping and keep looking straight. So that's why, when Bloods and Crips was killing each other, the Spanish gangs was just killing the Bloods and the Crips. The Bloods and the Crips weren't necessarily hunting for the Latinos, but the Latinos were hunting for the black people inside the Bloods and the Crips. He's not going to talk to you about that. He's not going to talk to you about tribalism. I've listened to people from California down there on the coast and things of that nature talking about the fact that the immigrants practice tribalism. You can't go inside a McDonald's, or you can't go on a Dunkin' Donuts over there. There's signs up that says Spanish speaking only, and black people are just basically pushed out of the working force in general. They tried it up here. In the community that I grew up in, I was last year in the wintertime or the fall, there were signs up inside the windows in Commerce Square saying hiring Spanish speaking only. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that I was seeing that in Boston, Massachusetts. It blew my mind. But the fact is, if you go inside a Dunkin' Donuts, it's either Latino or it's African. You know what I'm saying? You very rarely you might see one black person inside that whole mix. It's Latino or it's African or it's Arab. They never have like a multicultural thing happening. It's always tribalism practice. If you go inside a McDonald's, if you go into a Wendy's, if you go into any of these lower level retail or food service places, it's going to be very tribal. Inside my union, again, the hotel services are 80%. The food services are mostly Latino, and this is not about being racist. Side note, I want to know which black person started calling other black people racist. That is the stupidest, most clown shit, excuse my language, that I ever heard. Since when were black people racist? And I know some people, some other people from other races like to call black people racist, but generally, black people are just reacting to the way people act towards them or treat them. There's no racism inside a black person's heart because we were slaves. We're still at the bottom of this country today, and we don't have any merit to look down on anybody else. An African can come over here and be racist to a black person because, an East African. A lot of those Africans over there are black people that are still in Africa. An East African, like an Egyptian or something like that, could come over here and be racist. Or Ethiopian or something. They could come over here and be racist to a black person. These people have government, language, culture of their own, a country of their own. Just things that they have over you that they could look down on you about. But I have somebody like Yvette Carnell and Tone Talks and whoever the other callers were saying that I sound racist because I'm pointing out issues that they're afraid to talk about. And that makes me sick because it's something that I see inside the black community every day. They want to talk about white people until they're blue in the face. Talk about what they're going to do to them, what they owe us. F them, I don't care about them. And then they're afraid to talk about the people that live next door because they're afraid of those people that live next door. It's almost laughable, and it's part of the reason why black people won't get anywhere inside this country or in business or politics, because we have this fear of the people that are around us, and the only reason that we don't fear talking about white people, is because there's no repercussion for that. And I'm not saying that there's a physical repercussion for talking about any other race of people. I'm saying that black people are inherently afraid to point out the real issues that are right in front of us. White people will hire you. You are not going inside no Asian business and getting hired. You're not going inside no African business and getting hired. And you're definitely not going inside no Latino business and getting hired. And there's exceptions. You might see one or two and a few and then try to collapse my whole conversation. But the point is, these people all practice tribalism, and rightfully so. They stick out. They care about their communities. Latino people are very family oriented. They have a lot more morality and family values to a point that I envy. I've lifted Latino union members up. There was one case where a white guy was a part of a union unit, and he was the only American inside that union unit. So he aligned himself with the management over his union, which was, the rest of them were Latino. I still removed that union leader because he wasn't being an effective leader for his union, and I lifted up the Latino guy and taught him how to be a powerful leader for his union. This is not about racism. This is about a serious problem that Dr. Ben Carson made a strategic move to help us with. And all he got back for thanks was spit in the face. And it makes you think, what can a black person do outside of, opening the Federal Reserve and dumping 40 tons of $100 bills inside every black community in the United States, which is not realistic. It seems like this is the only